And we've all been in this situation where we hold on to a customer thinking something's going to turn. And what we wind up doing is cash flow rationalization. Well, I know this customer's a pain. I'm not making money off of it, but it's creating cash flow.
Sales Logic with Mark Hunter and Meredith Elliott Powell is brought to you by VanillaSoft.
Most people refer to VanillaSoft as the solution. It's the solution to ensure sales reps make the right number of attempts for every lead across all channels, including email, social, and the phone. It's the solution to serve the rep the next best lead every single time. You need to get your solution at VanillaSoft.com.
Hey, this is Meridith Elliott Powell, and welcome to another Saturday edition of Sales Logic. I mean, what's better to do on a Saturday morning than talk how to build your sales pipeline and close more deals? This is a show where we talk about it all, everything that you need to know to be more effective, more efficient, more successful, and more logical when it comes to sales. And I'm here with my co-host, Mark Hunter. Good morning, Mark.
Good morning. And hey, we've been drinking coffee already this morning. I've been working. I know you've been working. What have we been doing? We've been making sales happen. And that's what Sales Logic's all about. So, hey, I think we got a good show planned.
I think we got a really great show. Well, now we'll give you an update really quick for those of you who have not been with us before. We come to you pretty much every Saturday morning at 9 o'clock. And our format is we're going to have an unbelievable topic, something you really need to know to really sell more efficiently and effectively. But my favorite part of the show is when we take a question from you, the audience. So if you're listening this morning and you've got a question, something you want us to cover, go ahead and visit our website, saleslogicpodcast.com. That's saleslogicpodcast.com. You can enter the question there or just throw it out on social media and hashtag Sales Logic. We are going to talk about a book that you should be reading and covering. And last but not least, we'll leave you with a lightning round. Why a lightning round? Because we want you to get return on investment. These are strategies you can put into place immediately. So Mark, what do we have on board today?
Well, hey, the topic we got today, I think it fits because a lot of people are dealing with it. Handling objections and the best strategies for getting past no. Okay, that's the topic. But before we do the topic, we always get into a question. Longtime listener, first-time caller, John from San Diego. Okay, excuse me. Sorry, just had to throw that in. I have a client that has been my client for 4 years. They beat me up on price, take a lot of my time, and frankly, I don't enjoy working with them. Can I fire a client? And if so, how? And everybody raise their hands right now and say, yes, you can relate to John.
Oh my gosh. I mean, it's really funny. I think that as salespeople, we love the hunt so much that we stay in it with people that we would rather, quite frankly, go to the dentist and get a tooth pulled out than take care of them, and I don't care how big the business is. I don't care if it's your largest contract ever. They are costing you more money than they're ever making you more money. So the simple answer to this question is absolutely, not only can you, but you should fire this client.
Well, I'll tell you what, there's a real business philosophical question that you have to ask yourself here. You know that really more than 50% of every business's customers, clients don't make money for them. They lose money on them. You really only wind up making money on a very few customers. So here's the whole deal. John, you've got this, here's the thing. This is a little bit like a bad employee. When a manager holds on to a bad employee, what is everybody else looking around saying? Why is this person still here?
Right.
And then when that person finally gets cut loose, everybody goes, thank you. It's about time. Let me tell you something. If this person, and John, I don't know your business, but John, if this person is taking time from you, they're undoubtedly taking a lot of time from other people in your company. Here's what I've come back to. The most valuable asset you have is your own time. And as Meredith said, we all love hunting. I mean, hey, excuse me, that's my name. But I know, I'm sorry, a little too much coffee this morning. Here's the whole thing. There comes a time when you do cut the customer loose. And the easiest way to cut the customer loose, just raise their price. Raise their price. Because here's the whole thing. If they're paying you enough money, you'll put up with the pain. But if they don't want to pay them, they just walk away. They just leave.
We've got Jack Hubbard joining us this morning, and I got to say, he sounds like he is a member of O.J. Simpson's legal team. If it's not a fit, you can't continue to commit. I love that. I love it. So Jack is so right. Here's my favorite technique for getting rid of a customer that I don't want is I refer them to my competitor. And what I do is I say, let's assume that Mark is being a pain for me and he's not somebody that I want to continue to do business with. I'm going to say, Mark, I think that you have got some needs and some concerns that I think that are just a little bit outside of my scope. I think you would be a much better fit for our friend Sam Richter. I'm going to connect you to Sam and I'm going to make that referral. I used to do it all the time when I was in corporate because I figured if I could slow my competitors down with people that are a pain, it opened the door for me to go and get better customers. So refer them and go ahead and make that connection to somebody who would be a better fit for them.
Meredith, I've been meaning to talk to you about, I was going to refer you to somebody else, but it's, here's the whole thing. This is what's funny. You got to do a very simple P&L. Is this customer strategically or tactically making you money today? And strategically, what's their value for you long-term? You got to come to that decision quickly and make the decision. I see too many salespeople, and we've all been in this situation, where we hold on to a customer thinking something's going to turn. And what we wind up doing is we do cash flow rationalization. Well, I know this customer's a pain. I'm not making money off of it, but it's creating cash flow. And unfortunately, you can't run a business if you're solely focused on just cash flow from that perspective. Cash flow is good, but it better be positive. And this means it's sucking a lot of time and effort that could be better spent elsewhere.
Yeah. I also think that, one of the best ways to get rid of a client you don't want anymore is just to be honest. Is to say, this relationship isn't really successful for you. It's not successful for me. I really think you're going to be better suited and better taken care of somewhere else. I mean, they, sometimes you'll have clients try to backtrack. I mean, they know that they've been kind of a pain. But once you make that decision, you need to go ahead and move on. Here's the thing about sales, and I think sometimes as sales professionals, we miss this. The pie is huge. I mean, it's massive. So every time you're giving energy to a customer, you're saying no to potential prospects that may buy more from you, may be easier to work with, may be more enjoyable. And for those of you who run your own business, I always think with my own business, I should enjoy this. This should be fun for me. So I want to work with people that I enjoy working with. I just had a client call me back yesterday that I hadn't worked with in 3 years, and I was so excited to hear her voice on the other end of my my voice message. And I think that's who I should be working with. So don't be afraid just to be honest and say, this isn't working out. I don't think it's beneficial to you. I don't think it's helping me achieve my goals. I want to connect you to somebody that I really think will be good for you.
And just because you turn them off, just because you cut them off, you're no longer doing business with them, doesn't mean the relationship ends. I mean, I've had customers that I've fired, and I'm still connected with them. It's just, you know what? It's worked out better somewhere else. Here's the thing that I'll really ask you. You have to stay focused on who your ideal customer profile is, your persona. Who is that perfect customer? And I'll venture to say that, John, this client that you're working with does not fit your ICP. Because let me tell you something. If this client does fit your ICP, you need to change your ICP. Just saying, John, just saying. Hey, in the interest of time, we should move on to the topic. The topic is handling objections, like what John's dealing with, but handling objections in terms of best strategies for getting past no.
Yeah, the thing about getting past no, first of all, I think as sales professionals, we need to shift our mindset about objections. To me, the moment that I start getting objections, it really tells me that my customer is interested. They're engaged. They're going to push me. They're going to challenge me. And that is telling me if I can get past those objections, I've probably got a customer for life. So the first thing is start to think differently about objections. Expect them and be prepared for them.
That's the whole thing. Objections create a conversation, and this is what you want. And when the customer says, no, I had this situation happen to me the other day, had a potential client, and they said no, and it generated a great conversation. Now, it's been about 2 weeks. Have we closed the deal yet? No, but you know what? We figured out an alternate strategy that I think is going to turn into something. And ultimately, it's going to be a better solution for both me and the client. So don't hesitate to push back when a customer says no and say, why? What is it? You have to get underneath their thinking in terms of understanding what's the no.
Yeah, I think with that is you really need to listen. I think so often we're prepared to get past objections. If you object on price, I say this. If you object on timeline, I say this. If you object on the fact that, now is not the right time, and you need to just stop and really listen. Because I think the thing is, number one is let them say everything, because I just cannot express enough in sales how much your customers need to be heard. They really need to be heard. So if they have an objection, let them get it out. The other is keep asking open-ended questions. So as Mark said, you can really get to the underlying objection. For example, I just had somebody call me yesterday. I had done a proposal for some sales training for them. They called me back and they said, we really want to work with you, but we're a small company. The price is too high. Now you would assume that the objection is price. I said, let's jump on the phone. Let's have a conversation. And when I got up under it, the objection is they're not really sure their team is going to implement the strategy so they can get return on investment. I can solve that problem. But if I hadn't asked questions and gotten to the root, I'd be dickering with them on price when price wasn't really the issue.
See, that's a huge issue. This whole price, when people say, oh, you price, and it's never price. It's the correlation between price and the value. What's the outcome they're going to get? And you and I have both had this many, many times with clients where they challenge us on price. And I always say, when somebody challenges me on price, I come back to what is the outcome that they're looking for? And when you begin to put the price against the outcome that they're looking for and the outcome that I know I can deliver, suddenly that fades away. You see, here's the whole thing. When people say no, when people throw an objection up, and let's deal with no in particular, that's only a moment in time. No is never permanent. It is only a moment in time, and it demands you to clarify. It demands you to have a conversation, because no to you is going to be totally different than no to me. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's if you've got kids, you know what this means, because it's amazing. Kids know if mom says no, it means one thing. If dad says no, it means another thing. You gotta be looking and understanding what is behind that no.
Yeah, we've got some great listener comments in here. Patrick says, try to listen to them, try not to think ahead of them. Oh, Patrick, I think that is so important. It's really about being present, about being focused on what they say. Don't go 2 steps ahead. And Bill Snow says, really listen and have a conversation. Get in there and really try to understand. The other is that acknowledge that objection. Even if you think it's ridiculous, if you don't think that it's right, if you think it's, if you don't agree with it, doesn't matter. Acknowledge it. Let them know that you respect their objection and you're open to that objection.
And that means you're listening to them. And this is the whole key piece within sales. It really comes down to just listening to the customer and understanding. And it comes down to a simple thing that you and I have talked a lot about in terms of what do you do when a customer says something? You ask them another question on it. They share with you something else. You ask them another question. When somebody says no, help me understand what is it that you don't mean? Because here's the whole thing. And this is a battle I'm fighting. We've all heard this term ABC, always be closing. I'm sorry. I'm fed up with that. I'm done with it. It's ABV, always bring value. Mm-hmm. And the whole thing is when somebody has an objection or they say no, it's because they're not seeing enough value for what they're looking for. I got to step back and say, how much value am I bringing to you? And what is the value that you're looking for? I don't know what that value is until I have a conversation with you. and begin to understand where you're coming from, then I can begin to determine what is the picture I need to paint for you.
Yeah, I love what Matt Hines said here. If you can qualify it, you can overcome it. I do think one thing that we are not looking at here, though, is that sometimes you get into an objection situation and you really have to ask yourself, are you in front of your ideal client? Because there are some clients that are just incredibly price sensitive, and that's the most important thing to them, the Walmart shopper, right, Mark? And so you really have to ask yourself before you get into the work that it takes to overcome the objection. You need to ask yourself, am I trying with the right client? Have I really gone back to that? The other thing I'm going to say is that it's often, if you are dealing with a lot of objections, you didn't sell the right thing. You didn't ask the right questions at the beginning. If there's so many objections at the end of the sale, then you really have to ask yourself, do I really understand their pain points? Do I really understand the value they're looking for? And have I answered those questions for them?
So I got to give that whole phrase around Walmart. My phrase I use is, you can't take a Walmart shopper and make them a Nordstrom customer. Because here's the whole thing. If you're starting off with the wrong person, you know what? It doesn't matter what you sell. It's the wrong person. And this is the difference in the sales process between a product and a service. If what you're selling is a one-off product, there are objections that you're going to overcome and you're going to close the sale. It's fine. But here's the whole thing. If you're selling a service and there's an ongoing relationship, which I would hope every sale has an ongoing relationship, the selling process is going to help you understand, how is this customer going to work with me long term? This is why it comes back to, a Walmart shopper. Nothing against Walmart, but I can't make them a Nordstrom customer. It's just not going to happen. So are these things that I'm uncovering in the selling process that says, you know what, this isn't a fit? And it goes back to what Meridith was saying. You really have to know, what is your ideal customer profile? Stay in that lane.
Yeah. Every time I get a customer who gives me objections, just like I got with that client yesterday and saying, we're a small organization, the price is too high, I acknowledge and give credit to that objection. I say, that's a good question. Let's talk about that. So that they know I'm not offended by the objection, that I actually want the objection. Why do I want the objection? Because if I can handle the objections on the front end before we ever close the deal, then I have got a customer that's going to be so much easier to work with. So I opened the door to objections. Tell me what you're concerned about. Tell me what you're worried about. How are we going to make sure that this feels like a really good connection or situation for you? Because if you want those things, if you get those things on the front end, first of all, you're going to have a much better relationship. But if I'm able to handle those, I more deeply understand my customer, and I'll have a better relationship going forward.
Yeah. Don't ever allow an objection or anything like that to have you feeling like it's done, it's over, I can't go any further. No, all those comments, those are early stage factors, early stage. In fact, think about this for a moment. If you have a sale that you're making and the customer doesn't say anything, the customer doesn't respond at all, what's that tell you? What's that say? Do they really understand what it is that you're saying? Is your price even anywhere close? Because, here's the whole thing. When I have people push back on my price, I go, thank you. That's good. Because if nobody's pushing back on my price, I'm taking a price increase. My price isn't high enough. Because to a certain degree, here's the whole situation that you do have to look at. There are times when you have to evaluate, is this objection that they are throwing out, is it worthwhile for you to overcome? Because here's the challenge. Here's where I see a lot of salespeople making a big mistake. If they have a skinny pipeline, they don't have many deals in their pipeline, customer throws out an objection. What happens is the salesperson goes and starts making claims and delivering expectations that can't be delivered on after the sale. You got to be very careful on this. It comes back to this whole thing of staying in your ICP, staying in your lane. Do not allow objections to force you or to cause you to sit there and create a level of expectations that ultimately long-term you can't deliver on. Because what does that do? That creates an unhappy customer, and it creates an unprofitable customer.
Yeah. One last thing I'm going to say is the fact that, you need to use it also as a learning mode, because the objections I get with one customer teach me how to sell better with the next customer. If I pay attention to what Mark's objecting to, then when I turn around and I try to sell to Patrick or to Matt or to Bill, then I know what to include in that sales call, because most likely if I'm staying in my ideal client, Bill and Matt and Patrick and Ali are all going to have the same objection. So I become a better salesperson. So part of it is overcoming it in that particular sales call. But even if you don't, it was not wasted time, because it's made you a better salesperson for the next customer you're going to be calling on.
Hey, great conversation there, but we should probably wrap that up. And you got this week's book, and I love this book. So introduce it.
Actually, Mark, if it's okay with you, given what we're talking about, I'm going to change the book at the last moment, and we'll say,
I love it. I love it. We are getting a last moment change. I love this,
Yeah.
and I have a feeling I know what the book is. Is it written by a person with the initials AW?
Yeah, I mean,
Yes.
I was just sitting here listening to what we were talking about, and I thought, oh my gosh, how can we not mention this book, right? So Mark and I are lucky enough to be friends with just a tremendous couple, real powerhouse when it comes to overcoming objections, and that's Robert Fenton and Andrea Waltz. And the book is Go for No. And my copy happens to be in my book room right now. I've got a closet with all my books in it. But if we were going to be talking about this, I just can't mention another book. The book is Go for No, Robert Fenton, Andrea Waltz. And just like we said, change your mind about objections, be excited about objections. My favorite story about them, if you ever question that going for no works, is Robert must have asked Andrea for dates and to marry him. I don't know how many times, but the guy just kept coming back and coming back. And now they have been together probably more than 20 years. But going for no, if you need work on objections, that's the book to read.
I have to crack up. I think you and I are tracking the same way with this podcast. And literally, right? Because I'm going through the podcast and I see the notes and I go, I got a book I want to recommend. So it's good. And it's good. Anyway. Hey, great audience feedback. Boy, I see the notes popping up. It is absolutely. But hey, we got to get to the lightning round. The lightning round. Put your hands on the buzzer. Get ready for the fastest 2.5 minutes of social. No, I don't care what you call it. I really butchered that one. Lightning round. How to know it is time to fire a client. Go ahead.
What I want to ask though too is that let's ask the audience to weigh in too. If you have great ideas on how to fire a client, we're going to put them up here on the screen. But my number one is it is time to fire a client when I am not enjoying the relationship anymore. When the phone rings or I get an email and the energy drains out of me instead of pours into me.
A philosophy I always have is many times the most profitable business you'll ever get is the business you don't get. Fire the client, you'll be more profitable spending your time elsewhere.
Yeah, if the client continues to hammer you on price or tries to pick at every little thing that you're doing or you're presenting, it's time to fire the client.
If the client does not line up with you from a values and a level of integrity, you need to fire them.
Yeah. I think the fact that if it is a customer who continues to complain and maybe they're telling other people, only picking out the negative things that you're doing, and they start to spread the word, it is time to fire the client.
If the client cannot live with the expectations that you deliver and is always placing demands on you to go further, above, and beyond, and it's not delivering value to you, cut them loose.
Yeah. If the customer is not doing what they're supposed to do, like I never want my name on a customer who doesn't implement my training, coaching client who doesn't do what I ask them to do. So if they're not on track to become successful, for me, it's time to fire a client because my name and reputation is on them.
If the client is doing anything that is not of the best interest of all of your employees in terms of respect, in terms of how they talk with them, in terms of what they say about them, fire them.
Yeah. If I've got a client who's delegating everything, a lot of times I work with C-suite professionals, and if they're delegating it to the next level down, assuming that the next level down needs to do it, but they don't need to do it, for me, it's time to fire the client.
And I'll tell you what, it comes down to one very simple thing. Strategically, are you learning anything from this client? Every client you have, you really need to be learning something that is going to help you grow with another client. If this client is only taking from you, taking energy out of you, time to fire them.
Yeah, I think Bill Snow's got a great one here. Doesn't acknowledge your results and is constantly complaining. Oh, that's huge. It's time to fire. And Matt threw a great one up here. This is so important. If they don't fit your values, if they show signs or evidence of betraying your values, then fire them. Get out of there. That is so true. I'm blown away by how important values have become, especially really in this last this last year. I want to say that if I'm just not enjoying it anymore, like this isn't fun for me. I don't, and I think about firing a client when I don't want to do the work, when I'm not excited about it. It's not fair to the client that I continue to keep them because they're not getting the best of me.
You bring up a great point, and we'll close it down. I'll share, you share, then I'll close it down. Authenticity and transparency, more important than ever. And if this client, this customer, does not represent you and potentially put your equity at stake with other customers, you need to fire them.
Yeah. I tend to fire clients that don't show up or move meetings and things at the last minute, those that don't value my time and my resources. I'll certainly let you move one or two last minute, but if it becomes a regular thing, it just tells me you're not committed. Or showing up late to meetings, that consistently tells me you're not committed and it's time to fire a client.
And we're committed to your time. So, hey, with that, let me say thank you for listening to Sales Logic this week. If you like what you hear, subscribe, rate, and review the show on your favorite podcast app. If something we've said has earned you a single dollar, consider telling a friend about our show. It's how we grow to help you grow. I'm Mark Hunter.
And I'm Meridith Elliott Powell.
Remember, when you sell with confidence and integrity,
uncertainty suddenly becomes your competitive advantage.
And the sale becomes logical.
All right, we'll see you next week right here at 9 o'clock Saturday morning, and we'll have another fabulous conversation about sales. Bye.
Most people refer to VanillaSoft as the solution. It's the solution to ensure sales reps make the right number of attempts for every lead across all channels, including email, social, and the phone. It's the solution to serve the rep the next best lead every single time. You need to get your solution at VanillaSoft.com.